Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
What is going on, full-time family? It is time. What is going on, full-time family and MMA fans? It is time to break down and make our predictions for UFC Fight Night 152, UFC Stockholm, Gustufsson versus Smith. We've got a stacked card as far as the light heavyweight division is concerned. There are 5 of the top 15 ranked light heavyweights just on this main card. So this is going to do a lot of shaking up as far as the light heavyweight division is concerned. We do know John Jones has been not running out of opponents, but he's back and he's starting to clear out the division again. So we're looking for new #1 contenders. And here we got like damn near a little light heavyweight tournament going on. I mean, it's not as cool as the PFL or a Grand Prix where these guys actually are going to square off and face each other in the next round. But at the same time, you got, like I said, 5 of the top 15 ranked light heavyweights in the world all on this card. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of these fights play out. And with that being said, let's get into how I think these are going to play out. The main card is going to be Aleksandar Gustafsson versus Anthony Smith. The co-main event, we're going to have Volkan Oezdemir versus Ilir Latifi. Jimi Manuwa versus Aleksandar Rakic. Just those 6 fights, just those 3 fights right there. Those 6 fighters. That's fucking stacked, man. Like, all of those could be potential fight of the year, knockouts. Like, each one of these fights could end in knockout. I mean, there's a lot of high-level fighting going on here, but a lot of, being the light heavyweight division, these guys are all dangerous. But also on the main card, you got Makwan Amirkhani out of SBG taking on Fishgold. Damir Hadzovic versus Christos Giagos. And Daniel Tamer versus Sung Bin Jo. That's going to be the first fight we break down tonight. Before we actually get into the breakdown, guys, I found this new game we're going to be playing, Trivia Tuesdays. It's going to be in Jeopardy format, though. So every Tuesday, make sure you guys tune in to the channel. Subscribe if you're interested in MMA trivia. It's really fun. We're going to do it through Google Hangouts, have 4 people on the panel, and you guys are going to be the contestants. So in the end, we're going to be giving out prizes and all sort of stuff just for some fun MMA trivia every Tuesday here at Full Time MMA. So if you enjoy Jeopardy, if you like MMA trivia, make sure you smash that subscribe button and also like this video. Let's get into our breakdown and predictions for UFC Stockholm. In the first fight of the night between Daniel Tamer and Sung Bin Jo. Sung Bin Jo is making his UFC debut. He's finished all 9 of his opponents outside of the UFC and is undefeated at 9-0. Daniel Tamer doesn't have much of a ground game, although he has been the more active fighter who is fighting at home, and he has been fighting against higher level competition in the Korean Falcon in his career, although he's been losing. Sung Bin Jo, the Korean Falcon, his last fight took place a little over a year ago, but like I said, he's finished all 9 of his opponents, and also I think he's a little more well-rounded in this fight. He does have some wins via submission, and we have seen Daniel Tamer, as far as the UFC is concerned, he has been lacking in that department. So I'm going to actually pick Sung Bin Jo in this fight. This one was close for me. I originally thought I was going to be giving the edge to Daniel Tamer, but after looking a little more into it, watching one of Sung Bin Jo's fights and just learning a little more about him, I actually think he might be able to pull off the win here, especially considering Daniel Tamer's ground game. I think that could be the problem here. I wouldn't be surprised if Sung Bin Jo found a submission actually in this fight. So I'm going to take the Korean Falcon, Sung Bin Jo. Moving on to Makwan Amirkhani. Actually, that's not the next fight. It's looking like we're going to be breaking down Damir Hadzovic versus Christos Giagos next. In this fight, not much to break down. Not one of the best fights on the card. But not one that I was just super interested in breaking down. A lot of people might have just skipped this fight, honestly. But hey, it's on the main card, so we're gonna give it its proper respect. I'm going with the younger, more experienced fighter in this one. Not too thorough of a breakdown, but I will give the edge to Christos Giagos, who has also been fighting slightly higher level competition more recently in his career. So I'm just giving the edge to Christos Giagos in here. Now we'll move to Makwan Amirkhani to Chris Fishgold. Let me get my damn green check mark on the screen. And it's over the correct fighter. Alright. In this fight here, Chris Fishgold is actually the younger, more experienced fighter in this fight. But the difference in this fight is he's actually been fighting slightly lower level competition than his opponent Makwan Amirkhani, who's been fighting in the UFC a little longer and trains with Team SBG, who's not the best fight team in the world, but they're better than like a regional fight team or somebody that hasn't got with one of the best fight teams in the world yet. Both of these guys are well-rounded, but Makwan, I would say, has a little bit better wrestling, a better fight team, and also a little more UFC experience, which is why I'm going to give him the edge in this fight for really those three reasons there. A little better wrestling, better fight team, a little more UFC experience against higher level guys. So I got Makwan Amirkhani in this fight, SBG's Playboy. Moving on to one of our first light heavyweight contests of the night. I think someone's going to sleep in this fight. I would not be surprised in the slightest. Aleksandar Rakic is an exciting prospect actually in the light heavyweight division. But this, as far as the breakdown, this is actually a crazy fucking matchup to me because both of these dudes are heavy hitters. Aleksandar Rakic has looked phenomenal in his 3 UFC fights to date, putting a beating on all of his opponents, most recently knocking out Devin Clark, who's a legit fighter with a legit fight team. Jimi Manuwa was in the top 5 of the light heavyweight division, but is no longer, as he's now riding a 3-fight losing streak, 2 of those by way of pretty brutal knockout at the tender age of 39 years old. This is the case of a high-level veteran on the way out the door versus a young, dangerous, marketable up-and-comer who's now training at American Top Team. This is pretty much a toss-up for me. It's really hard for me to pick this fight because I really can't see Jimi Manuwa going out like this on a 4-fight losing streak after being ranked in the top 5 right before that, but Rakic has been on a tear. So I'm going to give the edge in this fight to I'm going to give the edge to, man, this is tough. I got to give the edge to Aleksandar Rakic, guys. This one is literally a toss-up for me. Like, I'm still deciding on this fight as we're doing the breakdown and predictions. Usually I have my notes, I break it down beforehand. But my notes, I picked Jimi Manuwa. But in my breakdown, I lean Rakic. It's so hard in this fight. This is a really tough fight to call. This is the toughest test for Aleksandar Rakic. I mean, he has looked phenomenal in the UFC to date. He beat Devin Clark, but Devin Clark has not been on the level of a Jimi Manuwa. None of those guys have been fighting guys on the level of Jimi Manuwa. So, it's just really hard. But it's fair to say Jimi Manuwa, not that he's done, but it's fair to say he might be out of his prime. 39 years old, 3-fight losing streak, fighting against a young, dangerous guy. I'm gonna give the edge to Jimi Manuwa, guys. I'm going with my notes. I'm giving the edge to Jimi Manuwa, but this one is fucking tough. This is a tough fight to call. Whew. Can't wait to watch it. I'm definitely more confident in predicting a knockout than I am the winner of this fight, but I gotta go with Jimi Manuwa. Alright, moving to the co-main event of the evening. Volkan Oezdemir versus Ilir Latifi. No Time versus the Sledgehammer. This is two of the best light heavyweights in the world for sure. These guys could easily be ranked in the top 5 right now. If all these middleweights weren't jumping up and, you know, clouding the rankings. I mean, and they've been winning, so, you know, fair to them. But these guys could easily be in the top 5 of the division. Both of these guys, you know, extremely dangerous. Ilir Latifi trains with two of the best light heavyweights in the world. That submission win over OSP was really nice. I mean, 2-1 in his last 3 fights. Let's get into the breakdown. In this fight, Ilir Latifi's first fight in the UFC was against Gegard Mousasi. He's 7-4. He's 7-4 in the UFC right now. His first fight in the UFC was against Gegard Mousasi. Welcome to the UFC. Here's a goat. What in the fuck? That's like fighting John Jones or someone in your first UFC fight. You're fighting a fucking goat. Welcome to the UFC. No chance. Since then, he's went 7-3 in the UFC and has recently hit his stride, going 2-1 in his last 3 fights with wins over Tyson Pedro and Ovince St. Preux, but he did lose his most recent fight to top light heavyweight contender Corey Anderson. No time Volkan Oezdemir is currently riding a 3-fight losing streak after winning his first 3 fights in the UFC, although his most recent split decision loss to Dominic Reyes. A lot of people feel like Oezdemir won. If you watch the fight, you'd probably score it for Oezdemir, but he didn't get his hand raised, so he is actually on a 3-fight losing streak, but he could be 4-2 in the UFC. This is a tough fight to call because, like Jimi Manuwa, it's hard to envision a guy that was just ranked in the top 5 and actually even fought for the title going on a 4-fight losing streak. But the difference in this fight is he's not fighting against a young up-and-comer who's never fought a top contender. Ilir Latifi has fought some of the best light heavyweights in the world and also trains with 2 of the top light heavyweights in the world in Gustafsson and Jimi Manuwa. Man, this is another super fucking tough fight to call, but I'll give the slight edge to Volkan No Time Oezdemir. Oezdemir has actually beat higher level competition in his stint with the UFC than Ilir Latifi, who had a really impressive submission win over Ovince St. Preux, but it ended in the first round, and he's lost to all other of the top 5 guys he's ever fought. Oezdemir also beat OSP, but it was via split decision in his UFC debut, but he went on to knock out Misha Cirkunov and Jimi Manuwa, which earned him an early title shot in the UFC, where he got a round and a half at least of experience against the best fighter in the world in Daniel Cormier. He got to feel what it's like fighting against the best fighter in the world. That's valuable experience. And he's also actually beat guys that have been ranked in the top 5 of the division. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is on the skid, but I got to give the edge to Oezdemir in this one, guys. Let's get the green check mark above No Time's head. I got Volkan Oezdemir in the co-main event of UFC Stockholm. Let me know who you guys got in the prediction. I can't wait to watch this card. And this is going to be a daytime card. So, it's going to be at a decent hour. You're going to be able to, like, watch the fights and then, you know what I'm saying, still enjoy the rest of your day or night. Evening, wherever you're at. Time to move to the main event of the evening, Aleksandar Gustafsson versus Anthony Smith, and guys, I got to take Aleksandar Gustafsson. He kind of looks like Aleksandar Rakic in this last fight. I just realized they have like the same fucking name, Aleksandar. Aleksandar Rakic like had a hairstyle similar to fucking Gustafsson's in this last fight. That's crazy. Whenever I just loaded this up, I was like, is that Aleksandar Rakic? Aleksandar Gustafsson has been the best light heavyweight in the world, not named John Jones or Daniel Cormier, for a long time now. Anthony Smith, though, is a warrior who's down to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, and he's had success at both middleweight and light heavyweight in his UFC career. I fucking love this dude, Anthony Smith. He's one of the most clutch fighters in the UFC, and he's proven time and time again he's never out of a fight. But I do have to pick Aleksandar Gustafsson here, who's also fighting at home in Sweden in the main event. So everybody's buying their tickets to come see this dude, Gustafsson, and Gustafsson is still one of the best light heavyweights in the world. He lost to John Jones, But that's fucking Jon Jones, who was also allowed to have pulls and picos at the time. So it didn't go Alexander Gustafsson's way. It's actually crazy. His first fight with Jon Jones was one of the toughest fights anyone has ever given Jon Jones. A lot of people thought Alexander Gustafsson was going to get his hand raised when he fought Jon Jones. But he didn't. The second time, Jon Jones came through and got the finish, made it a more decisive victory. So, that being said, man, I don't really know if Gustafsson can get like a title shot, you know, unless Jon Jones was ever to lose, but I do think he will be the ultimate light heavyweight gatekeeper. It's gonna take a real fucking stud to be able to beat Alexander Gustafsson. So yeah, man, I'll take Gustafsson in this fight. Let me know who you guys have in the comments. And with that being said, that's really it for the breakdown and predictions portion of the video. Only thing I'll say before I get out of here is, of course, make sure you smash the thumbs up button and subscribe. And make sure you tune in Tuesday for UFC Jeopardy, MMA Jeopardy, UFC Trivia, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a fun night. We tested it out a couple of days ago and it seemed fun. So if you want to join, make sure you have Google Hangouts. We'll have 4 people that can join the call, and those will be the people that play the game. For right now, we'll do first come, first serve, and then ultimately, I'm sure we'll have to do something to select who's going to play, because I do think there will be a lot more people that want to play than can. There's only going to be 4 people at a time, so if you do want to play in UFC Jeopardy this week, tell me in the comments, email me, and we'll try and get you plugged in. With that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I am out.
Bye, Felicia.